Evening and welcome to the Rush. It is Tuesday, the 15th of March 2021. I want to say thank you very much to those persons joining us internationally in the region and right here in Guyana. Thank you very much for tuning in to the Rush this evening. My name is Randolph Critchlow. We welcome you to the program, The Rush Business, as of course, we know we rebranded the program. We're doing things a little differently on Tuesdays and Fridays. We talk about economic matters, matters that affect your pockets. And of course, we follow the money. We follow the money. As usual, we ask you where you're joining us from. Let us know where you're joining us from in the comment section. Say good evening and we'll give you a shout out. Let you know that we appreciate you. We appreciate that you join the program every evening and you share the live stream, folks. You share the live stream so that others may be able to hear what is happening, folks. The credible and valid information. Let us know where you're joining us from in the comment section. Let us know where you're joining us from in the comment section, and we will give you a shout out all over the world. We know people join us from all over the world. You are locked into the Rush Business, and we are going to be talking about something very interesting this evening, and I want persons to pay attention because we are taking an educational kind of slant this evening as we talk about the modernization of Guyana's payment system. And what does it mean, right? The move towards digital and the modernization of Guyana's national payment system. We're going to be talking about what that is. We're going to be joined by Mr. Agri Marsh, who has been on the forefront of this issue. He is the Google lead for Guyana, and he's been a part of all things digital. We're going to be talking to him in just a bit later on in the program as we talk about this idea of modernization of our payment system in Guyana. We know, of course, the challenges we face when it comes to trying to pay using cards and in certain parts of the country. And of course, we are moving as a developed country, and we want to know what is being done, what has been done, what is being done, and where do we need to go to ensure that we are on par with the rest of the world. So we'll be talking about that. We're going to be identifying some other issues of concern later down in the program. But first, folks, let us say good evening to all of you joining from all over. We'll do that at the other end of this intro video. We always say, folks, on this program, let's start the right way. Let's unpack. Let's follow the money. Yes, folks, we are sharing the live stream. We are sharing the live stream on various parts, and we ask that you share. Where are you joining us from this evening? Good evening, Miss Clark. Thank you very much for tuning in. Antigua is in the house. Jamal Aziz, thank you very much for tuning in, sir. We know you're always locked into the program. Bless, good evening. People joining us from France. Thank you very much. Tasha from France joining us. Good night to those persons in Queens, West Side in the house, Antigua is in the house. Good evening, New York, Diamond Housing Scheme, Suriname. Good evening to you in Maryland. Thank you very much for tuning in. Brooklyn, Toronto, Berbice. Good night to all of you, all the good folks. Remember, folks, all we ask that you do is share the live stream. We ask that you share the live stream, folks. That's what we want you to do, as we are doing right now. We are sharing in a number of places. So we want you to share before we get into our topic. Before we get into our topic, folks, we want you to share the live stream. Give us a share. Give us a share. That's how you show that you appreciate what we are doing here, folks. That's how you show that you appreciate the work that we're putting in to bring you the credible and valid information, folks. So we ask that you share the live stream. That is all that we ask. We are doing so where operators are behind the scenes, and I'm going to try and share at a few places here myself so that we are on all pages and be running on all cylinders. Thank you very much for tuning in, folks. As I said, folks, today we're going to be dealing with a number of interesting topics. Let me just ensure that we are here. We are sharing on all pages. Right. We good to go. We are good to go on those pages, folks. Good evening. Good evening. Let me give some more shout outs before we start the program, Good evening to you watching from Toronto. Barbados in the house. Thank you very much for tuning in, folks. We're going to be starting giving you the substance in just a minute. Just ensure that we are sharing on all pages here. Let's ensure that we got that going, folks, because we have to ensure that everybody is locked and loaded. Everyone is locked and loaded. Right. Let me just make one more confirmation that we are on all the right places. Right. Hold on. 1 second, folks. 1 second as we get it right. What we'll do, folks, as we sort this out, we'll go and we'll back after this quick break as we start it out. Right, we are back, folks, and thank you very much for staying tuned. Just ensuring that we get all things right. Right, let us go, folks. We know that Guyana has lifted the COVID regulations. What does that mean for you? What does that mean for you, folks? We know that the COVID regulations were lifted. What does that mean for you? Right. What does that mean for you as we welcome in all of those persons joining us right now? Yes, Miss Kit, we are here and we are ready to go. We are here. Right. Frederick Minty, thank you very much, sir. Yes, we'll keep up the good work. East Ravel in the house. Thank you very much. Pleasance in the house. Essequibo, Maryland, Antigua, New York, NY. Thank you very much, folks, for being a part of all of what we're doing here as we continue to bring you the credible, valuable information. Great. Now, as I said, folks, today we are going to be looking at a few things, but first we have to bring up our menu, so to speak, for the evening. Let us show you what we will be doing. First of all, we'll be looking at what is happening internationally. Yes, Ms. Durant, they said no mask. So we're going to be talking about those COVID regulations in just a few because there's some confusion. Welcome, Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome. There is still some confusion as it relates to those COVID regulations here in Guyana. Right? Yes, Miss McDonald. Thank you very much. Florida is in the house. But let's go, folks. What is happening on the international scene? As Guyana rolls back its COVID regulation, we see China locking down. Quite interestingly, folks, headline says that China battles COVID again. And let me just give you some information on this. China has banned most people from leaving. A coronavirus hit Northeast province and mobilized the military on Monday. This was yesterday, folks, to combat the fast-spreading stealth Omicron variant. And this, of course, which has fueled the biggest outbreak since the start of the pandemic 2 years ago. And quite interestingly, folks, this is happening as some parts of the world, including Guyana, have decided that they will roll back the COVID regulations, the guidelines, right? And the world economy faces supply hit as this happens. Of course, we know that the role China plays in a global economy and supplies around the world. So this is quite interesting. We'll continue to watch this development. I want you to take that in. I want you to understand that there's a new stealth Omicron variant that is ravaging China right now, and they have locked down. They have put 45 million people on lockdown, folks. 45 million people on lockdown as we here in Guyana open up. Hopefully, we have not done so prematurely, but we'll keep our eye on this issue. What else is happening on the international scene, folks? Oil prices, of course, affecting us here. But let us give you an idea of what happened over the last 24 hours with oil prices. Oil suffers spectacular collapse. Oil suffers spectacular collapse, falls into the bear market territory. Right? Spectacular collapse, folks. And so we are watching this here. Let me give you an idea of what is happening there and what they are saying about that. Right? What is happening there with the oil? Now, oil has dropped to below 90 barrel. It is, sorry, below 100. Low 90s earlier today. Low 90s per barrel, of course, with the issue and the war in Ukraine. Oil prices would have skyrocketed. It was close to 130. It went up to $127 per barrel, and that has plummeted to around 90, 98, and it's surfacing around the low 90s today, which is a steep decline. And what has been fueling that, folks? Of course, a lot of these prices they jump around. Because of various factors. Now they have realized that the people in Europe are still, they're not weaning themselves off of Russian oil. So they have decided, you know what, this thing might end up going for the long run, and oil prices. Of course, this has an impact on us. This has an impact on us because we, of course, are producers of oil. And of course, as we mentioned, high oil prices are not a bad thing for the country, but the consumers at the pumps. As we, of course, follow another article that says Guyana is about to think about measures to ease the high oil prices on the market. And that's another thing that we're going to look at. What else is happening on the international scene before we move to what is happening locally, folks? We see the people in Russia. Now, gold is another issue. Of course, we are a producer of gold, and we need to keep our eyes on what's happening there in Russia with the gold. Now, a simple explanation for this, it might seem very alarming that the Russians are buying so much gold, right? Amidst the ruble collapse, and the central bank halts its own purchase from the banks. Now, a lot of things to explain here, folks. A lot of things to explain for those persons who are keeping up with the world economy and the economic situation around the world. Of course, the sanctions on Russia have caused a collapse in their currency, the ruble. And many Russians are deciding, look, instead of keeping this money, which is not going to be worth anything, I'm going to buy gold because, of course, gold will retain its value. And so the Russian central bank has suspended purchase of gold from these banks amidst increased consumer demand. This is what is happening, folks. The people are buying up the gold in Russia. They're saying, look, if we are going to face these sanctions and our dollar, our currency is going to be devalued, then why would I hold on to the currency? It's best I buy gold and keep the gold, and of course, gold can be traded at any time because the cost of gold will continue to hold. So that is the major issue here, folks. Major issue, right? As we take a look at that, yes, folks. Sorry about that, as we had a little break in transmission. Yes, so these are the things that we are following. These are the events that we are following in the global economy there, right? The Russians have sought gold as a way to preserve their wealth as the ruble tumbles to historic low. Right, what else is happening on the world scene, folks? What else is happening on the world scene? I think we'll end there. Those are the issues that we want you to keep your eyes on. Keep your eyes on gold prices. Keep your eyes on the oil prices. Interesting thing happening with oil there, as we shared with you. Oil prices going down as people realize that Russia is sort of weathering the storm of the sanctions, and many European countries are still taking their oil from Russia. So we wouldn't see a collapse, so to speak, of that sector in that part of the world. But keep your eyes on that. Keep your eyes on the gold prices as Russia buys up a lot of gold in a bid to secure their wealth. Let's move on, folks. In our Business 101 today, Business 101, today we're going to be talking, of course, about the issue of digital payments, the issue of modernizing our payment system in Guyana. My own experience trying to do business in Guyana, especially if you're using cards. If you move away from the capital, you have a difficulty, right? I remember trying to do business with a MasterCard in Guyana here, and frankly, only one bank accepted the MasterCard. And when you move out of Georgetown, trying to do business in Berbice, it was extremely difficult. You had to carry cash. So we want to move away from a paper-based payment system and move towards digital. And how do we do that? And what is that really about? So we're going to go into our Business 101 today, where we're going to show you a video as explaining how this digital thing works, how these digital payments work. And when we come back from this video, we'll be talking to Mr. Agre Marsh, and we'll be discussing what Guyana has done to modernize their payment system. So let's go straight into that.
Around the world, billions of consumers choose to use electronic payments to make purchases when shopping in stores, online, and over mobile devices. VisaNet, the digital network behind Visa, joins billions of consumers, tens of millions of merchant locations, and nearly 15,000 financial institutions worldwide. In this video, we are going to take a look behind the scenes of an electronic payments network to see how transactions are processed, explore how all of the different parties involved are connected, and review the various steps required for any electronic payment to occur. Let's start out by taking a look at the cast of players involved in every transaction. Consumers are issued debit or credit cards, which allow them to access their money or credit lines at numerous ATMs and make purchases at millions of merchant acceptance locations around the globe. The consumer's bank that issued the cards is known as the issuer. The issuer will authorize the transaction and guarantee payment on behalf of the consumer. Merchants who choose to participate in the payments network can take advantage of the large consumer base, along with the fast, safe, and secure transactions provided by the network. The merchant's bank is also known as the acquirer. The acquirer provides access to the network for the merchant by authorizing their transactions and ensuring that the merchant receives payment quickly and securely. And there is the network, or VisaNet, that connects all of the parties involved in order to make electronic payments possible. Every electronic payments transaction can be divided into 3 steps: authorization, clearing, and settlement. Let's see what happens during a typical transaction at a local grocery store. Authorization, the first step in the process, begins at checkout, when the consumer swipes, taps, or inserts a card into the store's point-of-sale terminal. Once the card is read by the point-of-sale device, a digital message containing the details of the transaction along with the consumer's account information is sent from the merchant to the acquirer. The acquirer will format the details of the transaction and then send the message to VisaNet. When VisaNet receives the message, it will run the message through a series of risk and fraud prevention tools to ensure that the transaction is valid and secure. The request is then routed to the issuer. When the message is received, the issuer will check the balance on the consumer's account to see if sufficient funds are available to cover the total amount of the transaction. If there is enough money in the account, the issuer will place a hold on these funds and then send the message back to VisaNet. VisaNet will route the approval message to the acquirer. The acquirer receives the details of the transaction and then sends the issuer's approval to the merchant. The merchant can now let the consumer leave with the groceries because the issuer has approved the request and guarantees payment to the merchant for the value of the goods sold. This entire authorization process usually happens in just a matter of seconds. As far as the consumer and merchant are concerned, the transaction is now complete. The consumer has the groceries, and the merchant knows that the acquirer will pay them within the terms of their agreement. But this is just the first step of the transaction process. The next step is called clearing. After the transaction is complete, the acquirer formats the data and transmits the final transaction and cardholder details to VisaNet. VisaNet then sorts all transactions worldwide and transmits a consolidated batch file to each issuer that is participating in the network. Upon receipt of the batch file, the issuer removes the authorization hold from the consumer's account and debits the final transaction amount from their account balance. Once the clearing of the transactions has commenced, the final step of the payment process takes place. This step is known as settlement. During the settlement process, VisaNet consolidates every electronic payment transaction worldwide and sends consolidated net settlement statements to the participating issuers and acquirers. Funds are then transferred between each institution with account activity to settle all transactions that have occurred within a specific processing day. At this point, the process is complete. Payments have become faster and more secure than ever before, providing a foundation for innovation, enabling exciting new ways to pay and be paid. From e-commerce to mobile, person to person, and beyond, electronic payments networks are helping to pave the way to the future.
Explaining there, folks, how the electronic payment system works, and that is very important. As today we're going to be talking about modernizing Guyana's payment system and where we are and what needs to be done, because of course Guyana needs to plug into the global system. We need to be able to have that infrastructure in place to attract investors. But before we get to that, before we get to our guest today and we talk more about that modernization, I want to get to some matters of concern, folks. Some matters of concern. Want to get to some matters of concern this afternoon, this evening, before we get into that our big topic for the night. And what do we have on our list here of matters of concern? Of course, we spoke about the oil prices, but this is the big one for me. This is the big one that I want to talk about, folks. COVID confusion. COVID confusion, folks. This is what I want to talk about. For those of you who've been keeping up date with what has happened over the last few days, Guyana has basically done away with its COVID regulation. But still there is confusion in the air. Confusion in the air. Yes, folks, as China locks down, Guyana opens up. But I'm not going to dwell on the opening up. I'm going to dwell on the way this PPP administration, this installed administration, continues to play with Guyanese people. Now, let me say this. A gazetted order was released. Health ordinance. At number 9 of that health ordinance, it says that where vaccination is required or is a requirement, proof of vaccination shall be in English and certified, blah, blah, blah. And it goes on to tell you it may also be shown digitally or any other form providing that identification. That is the only section of that health ordinance, folks, that spoke to proof of vaccination. But it has been widely reported. It has been widely reported, folks, that the president said, you know what? You don't need proof of vaccination to enter public buildings. Not I saying this, This is a report from the newsroom. Let me read the bottom there. It might be too fine for y'all to read. The requirements for individuals to present their proof of vaccination when entering public buildings have been removed. That is what it says. That is what is implied, and not only implied, but that is what was said in the report. But as a concerned citizen, I was wondering, where can I find this piece of information, this line in this order that says you do not have to show proof of vaccination? And folks, I am telling you that There is no such line. There is no such line in the order that was released. If somebody here on the live can tell me where I can find that line in the order, I'll be grateful. I would be grateful if you can go through the order, right? If you can go through that public health ordinance, that those regulations that were released yesterday, and tell me at number 4 says explicitly persons do not have to show proof of vaccination. What they have done, folks, with this ambiguous piece of document is they would have created a situation for more confusion. That is what they would have done. Created a situation for more confusion. Because it says there to you, where vaccination is a requirement. Now, what does that mean to me? Does that mean that if I go into John's shop and John decided, look, I need to see proof of vaccination before you come into my shop, John can just arbitrarily impose that rule on me? Because the government has not made it clear. John runs a restaurant, but John said, I don't care about COVID regulations, and you need proof of vaccination to come into my establishment. And this is what is going to cause the confusion, folks, because yes, today, there are reports of persons, of course, the public is now saying, look, there are no regulations. There are no regulations. But the business owners are looking at the ordinance and saying, look, it says where vaccination is a requirement. So it means that I can put vaccination requirement if I want. And that is what is leading to the confusion, folks. That is what is leading to the confusion. As you know, the question there is, blue book or no blue book? Of course, the private sector is happy. The private sector is over the moon because that is what this government wanted. They wanted the private sector to be happy. They cajole them. The private sector is in bed with this administration. So anything to increase business is good. And the removal of these regulations, is what they wanted. But the question is, folks, why? Why is the regulation or the order so ambiguous? Why is it not explicit? Why didn't it say you do not have to show proof of vaccination when entering public buildings? And folks, I'm telling you, if you found that in the regulations, you please send it to me, because I did not see it. What does where vaccination is required? What does that mean? Somebody explain to me in the comments. So maybe I'll ask Agri when he comes on, if he can tell me where vaccination is required. It means some places vaccination, proof of vaccination is required, and some places it's not. Is that what you're saying? Or is the government just trying to say, look, we would not be held accountable if this thing hits the fan? If we get another surge, we can always say that, we never said that we don't need proof of vaccination. We said where it is required, meaning that we gave people the opportunity to still ask for vaccination card. And again, this is going to cause confusion at many, many doors, at many public buildings. Right? But folks, again, I stand corrected. If you read the thing and you can interpret it better than me, go right ahead. And that's a matter of concern, folks. That is a matter of concern for me this afternoon. And let us move right along, folks, as we are watching our time. We want to ensure that we get all of the content in today. And we have lots to talk about as it relates to this particular issue. Modernization of Guyana's national payment system. Modernization of Guyana's national payment system. What is the national payment system, folks? What is the national payment system? Let me give you a bit of background. Let me give you a bit of background and a bit of information as we try to explain to you what do we mean when we say the national payment system. I want to give you a bit of a background there to it. I'm hoping that I get this information up for you. Good. We have a bit of problem. But let's bring in, since we are waiting on that to come up, I'll invite my guests to come in now. I want to welcome Mr. Agri Marsh to the program. Agri, good evening to you, sir.
Good evening to you. It's good to be on the rush.
Right. Thank you very much for being a part of the program this evening. Now,
Yes.
I was about to explain with a bit of information there to our viewers what is meant by the national payment system, right?
Right.
I'll allow you to give them a bit of idea and sort of let them know how you're involved with this particular issue. Go right ahead,
Right.
Agri.
So it's good being here, Randy. So I've been involved in e-commerce approaching 10 years now. I started
Mm-hmm.
working in Trinidad um, with a venture. Some years back, we got about $1 million investment, going across
Yeah.
different CARICOM countries, working with central banks
Yes.
and CARICOM in particular. And locally at home, I was involved in the last national e-commerce study conducted by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs as
E-commerce
part
study.
of yeah,
Yeah.
as part of the government preparing to negotiate in Geneva um, for Guyana to be part of the Joint Service Initiative. So persons
Mm-hmm.
can quickly Google that and get the entire report. It was done by international consultant out of Europe, and you could feel free to share that report and where the persons can get it with your viewers. But a national payment system essentially is governed primarily by the central bank, and it allows for all, because the central bank is the ultimate custodian of payments in the country.
Yes.
So payments between Republic Bank, citizens, are GBTI, etc. The central bank is that. So a national payment system basically takes two main forms. The central bank has done a lot of work sponsored by the World Bank the last couple of years, where they have the um, real-time gross settlement network, which essentially allows, which is partly implemented. If you speak with somebody from central bank, you probably get some update. And then the interbank connection network that allows what we know now as ACH. So if I want to transfer money from my Guyanese bank account to your Guyanese bank account, and some call ACH, automated clearinghouse. Persons who listen to us in the US will know what that is. That is already implemented, and persons from different banks can transfer money to other parts. What is really missing is that for Randy Shaw in South to receive money for payment from my colleague in Australia who says that, okay, Randy's selling this very good piece of item, and I want to pay for it with my debit card, as the video you showed earlier illustrated for the Visa network.
Mm-hmm.
So apart from Visa, there's MasterCard. So I've done some work in the region with MasterCard,
Yes.
doing the same kind of stuff. Because MasterCard essentially is a Visa competitor,
Yeah.
just to be clear. So yeah, so that is the national payment system is covering the interbank transaction, more or less the interbank locally, what we know as domestic, use a big word, basically
Yeah.
locally, connecting the local payment system, let's say via government to pay
Yeah.
checks, pensions, that kind of thing, but interconnecting that globally to the international payment system, as we saw recently where Russia was cut off with something
From
called
that Swift,
SWIFT.
yes.
Right. Good. So
Agri,
Swift.
let me just jump in here. I want to give our viewers a bit of information as it relates to what this payment system is, right? And you can jump in back here as we talk about, just give people an idea, because there are some legislative issues that I want to deal with, right? It says here from the Bank of Guyana website, right? They want to build a robust and safe and sound, efficient and inclusive national payment system that meets the current and future needs of the economy to support financial activities, financial sector development, advance the use of electronic payment. This is where we're going to be talking about tonight, the use of electronic payment to contribute to financial risk mitigation, to achieve compatibility with international systems, and to adhere to relevant international standards, guidelines, and codes. So now we're talking about ensuring that Guyana is a part of this system that everybody is using. And this idea of electronic payments are moving away from a paper-based or cash-based economy. And so where are we with that? I know we had a study. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So that study essentially identifies some gaps, and and I don't want to belabor the point, but I'll pick out a few and just touch on them. So the first thing is cross border transfer of information. Right? Guyana, and the study says exactly this, and I quote: Guyana does not have any regulation in place that covers the transfer of data, let alone cross border transfer of data. To bring its regulation framework in line with draft JSI, which essentially stuff in Geneva, provisions in this area, Guyana could consider adopting legislation that liberalizes cross border data flows while carving out certain exemptions necessary to achieve legitimate public policy objectives. So that's one priority issue that the study identified. Another one, location of computing facilities. Well, I could go on and on with this, where this is concerned. A good step that has been made is we have a liberalized environment now. Some started in last administration and completed by this one.
Yeah.
So essentially, we need diversity of outward bound cables. That's basically what we want to push at. And guess what, Randy? Guess what's important for computing facility? Reliable power.
But that's an interesting one.
I'm gonna leave that to you for you to deal with.
Reliable power, of course. We need that.
Right.
And don't let us get into GPL.
Yeah. We get to that. Going down the road. So we have online consumer protection. Now we know there have been a lot of issues where persons with join Ponzi schemes, get scammed out of money from different parts of the world, even local people working as agents for these people. So that's another thing that the study asked that we work on, right? And then the study also asked us for personal information protection and privacy, and that we should put laws in place. And fun fact, I was actually involved in a training by the European Union in Barbados. I represented Guyana on that particular training, where they were talking about GDPR, which is Global Data Protection Regime. And the context of your program speaks to the road to going digital. And this is one of the things that is key for us, because Guyanese data need to stay in Guyana, especially, well, I don't want to get sidetracked there, but that's another key area that we need to work on.
Yeah.
And then as we keep going down, we also need to look protection customer, but some of the banks in the country need to upgrade their system and become compliant with international standards. Because based on what you read, Randy, the central bank is essentially saying, listen, we want a payment system that match international standards. Of course, when they did the study some years ago, 15 or 16, with the World Bank, sponsored by the World Bank, essentially, the World Bank would have said to them, some of your banks are not compliant. And
Yeah.
I try to stay away from it when I must do, because I have some professional friends in Trinidad and Jamaica who are looking at this live stream.
Mm.
Anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing, some people say AML CFT,
Yeah.
is a major issue that still is something that banks have to deal with. Now, I know if you look at the reports under the last Attorney General, there's a considerable work done. We are moving
Yeah.
from
That
blacklist
is
to gray list.
Senior Counsel Basil Williams, who was Attorney General. I know that
Right,
the FATF and CFATF
right,
initiatives, and Guyana
right.
was
So,
actually forefront in ensuring that we're compliant, and we got off of some
right.
blacklists because of that.
Yes,
Without getting into that.
yeah, no, but we need to get into that, because
Mm,
this is part of what is national. This part of entering the national framework. It's
mhm.
important. Let me show you why that's important.
Yeah.
I have a Guyanese card, and there was a period of time when I tried to buy stuff with my Guyanese card, and simply
Yes.
because of the country that I was from,
Hmm.
the website refused to accept any cards from Guyana. Right
Wow.
now, we are at a different stage where today in Guyana, I could use my Guyanese card on almost any website around the world. So
Yeah.
that's a step forward. But in going forward, we have to make sure that we maintain that, because CFATF and FATF are going to do annual and biannual reviews of suspicious
Yeah.
transaction across the board.
Yeah.
So coming back to electronic payments, one of the major things that we need is a way to connect all the banks. So, for example, something like PayPal, Stripe,
Yes. Yeah.
who allow for Randy Critchlow to set up an online store selling anything he wants and
Hmm.
receive money in his bank account. There are some
Yeah.
regional efforts on its way from Trinidad, from Jamaica, from Barbados. One of them I know personally is out of Barbados. So
Hmm.
what is key is apart, and I see recently, and to be fair, there was a study. It's let me get it right.
Yeah.
Is the 2022 strategy for
Yeah.
e-commerce, which essentially
E-commerce.
yes, which essentially quoted some of the stuff that was done before. So I look forward. They had some dates there to delivering. I hear they're working on electronic signature bill. The most recent legislation was out for consultation in 2019. I think still out recently by the last administration. That project has been continued and moved under the Ministry of Business.
Yes.
Um, of recently open for consultations for persons to give their views on this particular bill. So public clamoring from persons like yourself who
Yeah.
have business, who are into business, and would like to be able to receive payment from across the world, right? From persons' credit and debit cards into your bank account. I think this legislation, along with efforts on the way by the Central Bank of Guyana and the team,
Yeah.
would
Let us
help
just
us
make
move
it
to this point.
let's just make it clear and known here to our viewers that this legislation came into force 2018 under the APNU AFC. This is the National Payment System Act that came
Right.
into force. It was the APNUAFC, like Agri would have mentioned, that push for those anti-money laundering regulations to come into force and ensure all the banks are compliant, to ensure that we are in line with FATF and CFATF, got us off of
Mhm.
those blacklists, and we are moving in the
Mhm.
right direction. And what has happened, I know it the
The bill is out for consultation. It's
yes,
not been passed or read as yet. It's
okay,
just out for consultation. So what
right.
needs to happen now? It needs to be tabled in Parliament,
Mm. Right.
and then once
Well,
it's tabled in Parliament and
let's go
passed,
to the actual infrastructure now, uh, Agri, because this is a sore point. The project or the project to enhance the national payment
Mm-hmm.
system, got a grant of 6 million US to start. And
Wow.
yes, 6 million US. That is I'm reporting here from the Bank of Guyana website, right? 6
Uh-huh.
million US. And I want to
Mm-hmm.
share I want to share with you our viewers, you and our viewers, a bit of information that I would have gotten from, we're doing our investigation here, we're doing our investigation. And I want to share
Serious research, man.
serious research. Budget estimates, volume 3 of 2022, sorry. Right. I doubt that we can see it, but I'll go through what it says here. And this speaks to this particular thing here. It speaks to, one second. It doesn't want to move.
they're,
It's not moving. Sorry. Right. The
they're
national
working
payment
against
system,
you.
right? The
Uh-huh.
national payment system, and it gives you an idea. And this is, of course, a description of the project to establish a national payment system infrastructure, including software and hardware and real-time gross settlements of central securities, depository
Mm-hmm.
system of the Bank of Guyana, the Guyana Revenue Authority, the Guyana
Right.
Insurance Scheme, and the
Mm-hmm.
Accountant General Department. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry that I'm not getting to scroll because I want to go down. When you go down, it says
You
there
can
that the
try using
project,
your arrow keys if your arrow
let me
keys work.
see, let me see. No, apparently it's stuck.
Okay.
Apparently it is stuck, right? So I'm going to stop
Mm-hmm.
sharing that. But what if we
Mm-hmm.
get that back? I'll say to you that the project is now 570 something million dollars, almost
Mm-hmm.
half of the initial cost. And the question that I want to ask, I mean, I know you probably don't have the answer.
I
We only
don't.
need to
I'm
ask
sorry.
the senior minister within the Ministry of Presidency responsible for finance. We need to ask, why was this project slashed? And on Friday's program, we'll dig a little deeper into this. But
Mm-hmm.
let's
Mm-hmm.
go to the establishment of that infrastructure, Agri.
Mm-hmm.
What has
Yeah.
been done? How far are we? Can I go into one of the commercial banks, walk in with this card, or take my card from GBTI, jump on a plane and go to France and use it?
Mm.
Are we there yet?
Right. So I could say for at least one of the banks, I won't call the bank name, I can
Mhm.
travel with a local bank card, but that's provided by the company of whom
Yeah,
you shared earlier, Visa. So that's a
yes.
private company. When
Hmm.
we talk about national payment, if you look at the institutions mentioned there, GRA, um, and the pension department, etc.,
Yes.
and even the general department that does payments for the government. The
Yeah.
goal for a national payment system is that Granny don't have to go and stand up at a line.
To
Granny
get
gets
our
a
pension.
text to get up,
Hmm.
and Granny gets a text that the money has been deposited in her bank account.
Yes.
Yeah. So a real robust national payment system deals with domestic things, as we just talking about,
Yeah.
and the
And
real key for
international.
and the key for entrepreneurs looking at this live, people want to get paid. People want that if I selling, for example, good craft or good shirts, right?
Yes.
And there are persons in the diaspora who want to buy these things. They must be able to pay me in my online store, whether I use Shopify or any one of them, and
Yeah.
I receive money in my Demara bank account, in my GBTI bank account. Now I
Yeah.
know I can speak clearly in this because spoken to them at length. Scotiabank in particular has this thing where they have a similar system. Once you are a um, merchant with them, part of the merchant services, you
Yeah.
can do a plug in and receive payments online. But
Online.
really and truly, part of what the study had spoken to, and I want to come back from a very professional standpoint, is
Hmm.
that for all Guyana, and I sent you some snapshots earlier.
Yeah.
100% of the government payments are online. Most Guyanese use about 1 to 2%. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Also, this graph speaks for itself. I don't have to explain anything here.
Hmm.
Cash for periodic paying of bills is 95%, which is the lowest in.
95% of that payment is done in cash.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so look at the um trans transfers is 2.4% electronic. Let me go up
Wow.
to frequently purchase of service, 1% use cards, which means if you really want to get, as your theme for your program says, going journey to
Digital.
digital,
Mm-hmm.
you have to do a few things. Connectivity is key,
Mm-hmm.
right? The liberalization of the ICT sector was a major step. The next step is to remove taxes on networking and all anything to do with telecommunications, remove it for 5 to 10 year period. So and
Yeah.
this is me giving a clear idea that somebody could take and run and put as their own. This is Guyana.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
I know who is do those things here, right?
Let me just before you, I want you to continue on that same line in terms of what we need to do. But I want to
Mm-hmm.
highlight an alarming thing here that I'm seeing: payments to government, 100%. So it is.
Yeah.
If I am an investor and I come in this country and I want to
Yes.
set up a business and I have to pay something to the government, whether it be GRA, whether it be
Mm-hmm.
NIS payment for workers, 100% of that is done in cash. So the
Mm-hmm.
government has
Mm-hmm.
no sort of infrastructure they can receive electronic payment.
No.
That is unbelievable. That is
Yes.
unbelievable. How does that translate to ease of business as we
Well,
are
well,
looking at becoming a developed country? How does that
right.
translate? And so this is that's alarming for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Right.
but
So
go ahead.
if you know the source of this information, this
Hmm.
is from the World Bank survey, who had
Hmm.
originally given the government the $6 million to get this thing going,
Yes.
right? And this is and the issue is, one is foreign, what foreign people have to do, but I am foreign in the oil and gas sector. They'll have their people and the service people will do that. But what is concerning for me is really Guyanese businesses who need to do big business. And because everything, most of the stuff is cash, it means at 5 o'clock or 3 o'clock, most business have to close up. It's two
Yes.
o'clock in the morning. I can't sit down home, pay all my taxes, pay all my stuff to GRA, register business online. All of
Hmm.
these things are being worked on, and they started working on some years ago.
Yeah.
So I've seen in the 2022 strategy that the current government is working on carrying this forward.
Yeah.
But what is important for us to note is that the effect that cash has on our society is where a lady was recently robbed. I think you carried this, Randy, in
Hmm.
Burberry's 30 something million,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Coming
Yeah.
out of a bank. Now,
Yeah.
most people who are not Guyanese will want to know, well, and my colleagues from university are looking at the live, they'll want to know, but Agri, how would somebody be worth would rob of 30 something million? And when you show them that graph and they understand the level of cash that Guyanese primarily
Gonna
use,
walk about with.
that they walk about with. You could, and I have seen businessmen with a big water cash in their pocket. That's a
Hmm.
security risk. You
Yes.
understand? And I try to tell persons who I do business with, or we do stuff. I was like, listen to me. All the banks in the country has one thing working for sure. Any bank in this country, it doesn't matter which one, have online banking.
Hmm.
So today, if you have a bank account in Guyana and you want to transfer money to somebody else, you if you don't have it, if you haven't signed up or access the service at your local bank, you can call your bank in the morning and say, listen to me, or send your bank an email. How do I sign up for online banking? There's no bank in the country that don't have online banking. I'm not. There is one bank I have a question about, but the system is kind of archaic, but it still allows you to transfer money from your
Yeah.
account to
Yeah.
another account locally.
Yeah.
So that's where we are. Where we need to go is real time gross settlement And as you now give me some news that it was slashed on the budget.
Yeah.
And for me as an entrepreneur and someone working with business people, I really would like them to reconsider something like this, because all the local content we are talking and we pass a bill, right? Right. One of the major things for local content is that you have to make sure the Guyanese companies are competitive. All right, nice. With the foreigners, because the foreign companies have the ability to transfer money electronically.
Yeah.
Yeah, you understand? And if you want to really push local content, if you're Exxon, you would want to choose somebody who could process your payment quickly and have the ability to receive payment from internationally
Exactly.
very
Business.
quickly.
Business, and that's what we're talking about here. Ease of business. How do we operate in the landscape when it is not fully developed? I have my own experience of using a MasterCard. I worked with an international organization that gave me a Citibank MasterCard, and only only one bank, I think a Scotia Bank,
Mm,
used to accept that. And the type of work, the community work that we're doing, we had to go, these regions. There's nowhere. When you move away from Georgetown, you can't find anywhere to use the card. You can't go into a point of sale place or a store and say, you want to use this card. And it is something that we need to deal with. And I'm hoping, as I shared here, um, we can see here that this was slashed. It's now $547 million instead of the 1.2 billion. And when and where this was slashed is a question I'll try and answer by Friday, because I'll have to do some calls and see if I can get my contacts to tell me what has happened to this 6 million US that was allocated and was got what we got from the World Bank to ensure that we modernize this
Randy, this
infrastructure.
is news to me. Randy, I didn't even know this until just now. I
Well,
honest with you. I mean, all I talking and think I didn't even know about this, frankly, because
right.
this
Go
is
ahead.
important. This is something Starbuck News, Kite Show, and all these people should be jumping on, like saying we talking local content,
Yeah,
we talking building businesses in Guyana, we talking competing regionally and internationally. Businesses need to get paid. We talking pushing entrepreneurship. The minister should at least come out and say, well, listen, entrepreneurs, we working to help you. We This was cut from the budget because of X, Y, and Z, but we're gonna
yeah.
bring it back
And
at this particular time. But
Agri, let me
is
just say this.
critical.
I can't confirm at this point in time when it was cut, because I know that it was a $6 million loan. I'm looking here from the 2022 budget estimates, and it's saying it is $547 million instead of the $1.2 billion it should have been. When that
Oh.
reduction was made, what I will do on Friday also is that I'll share the um the milestones, the markers that were put in place by the World Bank to see, okay, by 2021 this is what we should have. But we'll have a deeper investigation into this, because as it is, you're saying now that there is a 2022 strategy. Um,
Right.
this 2018 money and the 2018 framework that was put in place, where is
Right.
that? How is it coming, and how does it relate to the 2022 strategy? And we need to
Right.
have some answers. So hopefully between now and Friday, we can share with our viewers what has
Right.
happened to that, what has happened
But
to
let
that, and
me
where
let
is
me
that?
make a point
Mhm,
to that. I know I've spoken to one of the key people who is in this 2022 strategy.
mhm,
And one of the things, Randy, I mean, let's talk building Guyana national development for just a minute.
mhm,
Listen, if the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Telecommunication, Minister Hughes, they did work and
mhm.
we made X amount of progress, there should be no shame in the game to say, okay,
Yeah, the good
we
work. Let's continue
took,
it. Let's build on it.
yeah, yeah, well, let's really take what they have done, bring it through, bring the bill. And I sure Minister Hughes won't say, well, the bill not good enough, because she was the one to help start the
Mhm.
consultation or whatever. Support
Yeah,
it and have a non-partisan approach to something as critical to our development as payments. Because
payments.
month upon month, you see persons being robbed of cash. And that graph that you showed earlier shows that we are primarily a cash-based society.
Cash
And there's a
base.
study from a European Union consultant that says we need to move away from cash, and these are the key areas and the key steps we need to take. So there's
Yeah.
already a national study done. The document is out. They can go to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They can even speak to people in Europe, because they might say, oh, these APA people, you want to talk to them. Be that as may. But they are independent intellectual work that was done that is worth its money, that was paid for it by the government via whichever ministry, that can help propel us in the morning to being a much more competitive country. Because remember, Guyana, we ain't just competing against ourselves, we are competing globally. And because we are competing globally, we have to take these steps that are required.
Right. So sorry about that. Sorry about that. So we had a caller there. I just had to cut that off. But
Right.
we out of time, and we thank you for that. I believe very, very important information was shared here this evening. I will invite you back on Friday. We'll have some conversation. I'll invite you back on Friday, because we need to dig a little deeper as to where this is. A very key piece of infrastructure, digital infrastructure that needs to be in place, so we can facilitate the sort of development that we want. Investors can't come to Guyana and then, you know what, they can't use the card, they got to walk around with $2 billion to pay the government in cash. What are we doing? What are we doing? Right? Somebody said money laundering easier when the thing where you don't get a lot of these electronic paper trails, so to speak. But we'll talk about that and more. We'll make some way now for our good friend Sher Duncan in the ring. Thank you very
Yes.
much, Agri Marsh, for being a part of
In
the
the ring with his bell.
Yes, with his bell, ringing it loud. Thank you very much,
Yeah.
Agri, for being a part of the program today.
No problem. See you.
Great. Folks, that was our program for this evening. I know the information shared here, you'll take it and we'll internalize, and we'll be back on Friday. We will not rest on this issue. We will not rest on this issue, because I need some questions answered about close to $600 million and why and where. That's what I need to know. But let's go, folks. Do enjoy the rest of your evening. As I always say, let's continue to work together, as the time has moved up now to 6:07. I know we over program time. We're going to hand you over to Sherrod Duncan in the ring, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your week. See you again on Friday at 7 as we talk more about what the matters that affect your pocket. My name is Randolph Pritchell. Let's work together to continue building national development. Do enjoy.